Hey pilots and builders, I'm Hans with Precision Aerobatics, and this is an XR61 that I'm going to use to help illustrate the proper mechanical setup of our linkages. If you're in the build process, I want you to pay close attention. You may want to revisit this also if you have an airplane that isn't flying quite right or feels like your sticks are uneven to one side of the deflection or the other. There could be something wrong in your mechanical setup. This goes back to some basic geometry principles here. We have a servo that is not linear. It actually travels across an arc. So as this servo sweeps, if our linkage isn't properly built, we could introduce some goofy things, mathematically or geometrically, that are happening to our relationships of the flying surface and the control arm during all this movement. So here's what we're looking for. As we build this plane, the control horn needs to exit the flying surface perfectly at 90 degrees to the slot. Use tape if you have to when you build this thing to make sure it stays put as that's drying. You also want to check to make sure the hole for this clevis that's in the horn is sitting at rest directly on top of the hinge line. The clevis itself isn't here to be tightened down and clamped down on this horn. That screw is actually there just to hold it on there. And you, when you built this, had to use a needle file or something to open up that horn just perfect enough that it sits in there. So this is a very, very, very critical stage here as you're building this airplane to make sure that we have a clevis that is affixed to this horn without slop, without a goofy, overly big hole. We don't want a lot of lateral slop, so if you need to tweak your clevis open just a little bit, be sure you don't bend it open unevenly and you turn it into a Y instead of something that's more like a very deep U-shaped channel there. And then use Loctite on that bolt, or that screw rather. The next thing that we look for that's very, very overlooked and is infinitely important is for this servo arm to be perfectly 90 degrees to the servo case when the flying surface is centered. This will make setting up your radio infinitely easier as well, because you'll just be able to sub-trim to a point where your flying surface comes back to the neutral position. Your linkage at that point should be parallel to the flying surface. And what this means is we have equal travel, equal speed of travel, and hopefully equal throw on our flying surface. And this is important for all of the flying surfaces, not just the elevator I'm demoing this on. So in the next video, we're going to go over the radio setup and how it can help a good mechanical setup.